I am Micallef. In this video, I will provide an overview of the findings of our research, examining the work practices of professional fact-checkers. Please refer to the paper for more detail. In recent years, the amount of online misinformation has grown exponentially. As a result, people are often left wondering whether a piece of content they encountered online is true or false. It has been found that people consider independent fact-checking to be reliable and trustworthy. In recent times, there has been a notable increase in the number of independent fact-checking organizations, going from 96 independent fact-checking organizations in 37 countries in 2016 to nearly 400 such outlets in more than 100 countries this year. Such organizations include outlets like PolitiFact, Chequeado, and FoodFact. The practices of such independent fact-checking entities are typically audited by the International Fact-Checking Network. Although researchers have recently started to investigate the challenges and barriers to fact-checking work, these efforts typically focus on journalists and traditional media outlets, rather than on professional independent fact-checkers. Our research addresses this gap by seeking to understand the work practices of professional fact-checkers working for independent fact-checking organizations as well as traditional media outlets. To gather detailed insight on fact-checking work practices, we conducted semi-structured interviews with 21 professional fact-checkers from independent fact-checking organizations and traditional media outlets spread across 19 countries. The sample contained roughly an even number of men and women, ranging in age from 20 to 60 years. The fact-checkers covered a range of fact-checking experience from beginner to senior staff. We analyzed the interview responses using a bottom-up inductive approach inspired by techniques from grounded theory, allowing common themes to emerge from the data without a priori assumptions. Our interviews surfaced that at a higher level, fact-checking involves a number of common processes arranged in a sequential pipeline of tasks, starting with selecting a claim, which includes monitoring social media feeds and processing reader requests. Next, the selected claim requires contextualization and analysis, which often involves contacting the originator of the claim. Subsequently, fact-checkers typically consult data and domain experts as they seek information sources and people to back up the claim. The outcomes of these efforts are written up in the form of a fact-check report that includes an explanation of the method used and provides a fact-check rating. The report must then be disseminated broadly for it to have maximal impact. Let's look further at each of these aspects. In general, the fact-checkers in our study considered the process of claim selection as an opportunity to contribute to the discussion of the topics that affect public sentiment, as can be noted in the quote from a fact-checker from Kyrgyzstan. For instance, all reported prioritizing political claims, especially during elections. Apart from that, claim selection involved several specific selection criteria, such as whether a claim is viral, anonymous, targets minorities and disadvantaged groups, etc. Contextualization is a deeper analysis of a claim using relevant background knowledge. For example, if a public official claims that unemployment figures have decreased, contextualization would involve explaining the story and patterns behind the figures. As this fact-checker from India explained, context is important for determining whether a given piece of content should be deemed as misinformation. After contextualizing and analyzing claims, fact-checkers consult primary sources and domain experts, using the same techniques as those used by journalists to verify the information used in news stories. Most fact-checkers in our study placed importance on verifying primary sources. As noted in the quotes, the common practice is to contact the primary sources directly or to access official reports and data from reputable and trustworthy repositories. Writing up the results of fact-checking work is more than simply reporting whether the claim in question is true or false. Along with the rating, the report provides the information used to contextualize and analyze the claim, including any response from the originator of the claim. In addition, the report contains links to the data sources used and the information obtained from domain experts. When relevant, the report covers the evolution of the claim along with pointers to unrelated fact-checks by other trustworthy organizations. After writing the report, most fact-checkers in our study conduct a rigorous iterative peer review, in which the editorial team verifies the report before it is published, as noted in the quote by the participant from Nigeria. The assignment or final fact-check rating typically takes place during the iterative peer review. Alternatively, in larger independent fact-checking organizations and traditional media outlets, the rating might be assigned by the editorial team after reviewing the report. For the outcomes of fact-checking work to have a measurable impact on combating misinformation, they need to be disseminated broadly and quickly. Currently, the main avenue for disseminating fact-checks is annotating them with relevant metadata and publishing them on the organization's websites and social media feeds. Some platforms, such as Google News, may choose to display them as additional information when serving the main content. As noted in this quote, the fact-checkers in our study expressed frustration that the dissemination of the fact-checking outcomes is nowhere nearly as widespread as that of the underlying misinformation. In addition, the fact-checkers in our study pointed out that platform features, business interests, and local regulatory influences can hamper the dissemination of fact-checks. As part of understanding the practices involved in fact-checking work, we specifically sought to understand the use of technology to support these practices and the various challenges that affect the effectiveness and efficiency of the work and its dissemination. We uncovered numerous challenges at every stage of the fact-checking pipeline. Selecting claims is inefficient because of the sheer volume of misinformation and the lack of efficient filtering mechanisms. Contextualization and analysis are performed largely manually, with little computational support. Seeking input from external people is slow because consulting primary sources takes time, and domain experts are busy professionals or hard to reach. Writing up the results is tedious, especially since it involves iterative and collaborative review processes. As mentioned before, the dissemination of the outcomes has a limited reach. In addition, we found that the computational tools used to perform the various tasks involved in fact-checking work are not integrated with each other, resulting their use being fragmented across the fact-checking steps, which increases time and effort and correspondingly decreases efficiency. The findings of our research point to a number of ways in which computational tools can be augmented and integrated into the pipeline of fact-checking steps, proactively detecting topics that are likely to generate misinformation in the near future, supporting collaboration across organizations and regions to enable data sharing and to avoid application of effort in fact-checking the same information, automating and personalizing the processes of data discovery, and filtering to reduce the time and effort involved in claim selection and prioritization, and exploiting mechanisms to disseminate fact-checking outcomes quickly to a broad audience in a way that fits the context of people's information consumption. In conclusion, we found that current fact-checking practices are largely manual, ad hoc, and limited in scale, scope, and reach, thus preventing the outcomes of fact-checking work from achieving the desired societal impact. Our work can motivate the development of better computational support for fact-checking work.